Hi, everyone. This is Elsie Kerns, your Chaos to Clarity coach and energy medicine expert. Tonight, I have another energy medicine expert, and her name is Kate Holt. So, Kate is not only a nurse, but also runs the Holistic Business Mastery, Mentoring, and Coaching, and is now the executive director of the Core Institute. And she is, of course, a core energetics therapist. So I invited Kate tonight because I wanted her to tell us about the Core Energetics retreat that will be held in Philadelphia in August. So Kate, welcome.
Hi, Elsie. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So Kate, I know a lot about core energetics because I've done some therapy with you, but would you tell us who would benefit from the core energetics retreat and a little bit about what people can expect for that weekend?
Sure. So I'm getting a little echo. I don't know. Are you hearing that?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe it's getting better. I think it is getting better. Yeah. So I just thank you for introducing me, and I just want to make a tiny little correction, Elsie, because you called it core energetics therapy. And while we do have some psychotherapists who also practice core energetics, we really call it a core energetics process. And people who do this work, John Parakos, who founded the work, actually called it an evolutionary process. And so that means that it's a process that allows people to evolve and develop personally, emotionally, spiritually, and that's really what the work is about. So I like to just make that little, so that people understand it's not psychotherapy. It's really a process that allows you to evolve. So, and it could be for anyone really. And yes, you've experienced the work, so you know how powerful it is, and how powerful any work can be when we're working with energy, and especially when we're intentionally working with energy, right? Which is what you do so well. I've experienced your work, so it's easy for me to see the power of energy work on both sides. So core energetics is this process, as we said, that really helps people get really clear about who they are and what they want. And it helps them to drop what we call the masks, the layers of protection that we've developed over time that help us to cope with some of the things that have happened to us in our lives. And then those protections, which we do to help us cope, begin to create problems for us. So a little example would be if it was really dangerous for you to have your negative feelings as a child, then you would put on a pretend layer, a mask of I'm always happy and I'm friendly, and that's how you get your love, by being happy and friendly and not showing any negative emotions. But negative emotions are part of being alive. And so eventually, when you are not showing, when you're never showing the negative emotions, and you're always trying to identify with the positive emotions, I'm so happy, blah, 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 but underneath, you don't really feel so happy, it starts to create inner conflicts. And then those inner conflicts affect our relationships and so much of life, not just relationships, but our relationship to our work, our relationships to ourselves, to our bodies, and to health. And so this work of core energetics is really about helping people come home to themselves in a way that they couldn't just by talking about things. So that's just to give you a little background of what the work is itself. And, as you said, I'm the director for the Institute of Core Energetics in New York. And we do our trainings in Litchfield, Connecticut. And oh, I see we have some people on that we know. That's exciting. So we do those trainings in Litchfield, Connecticut, and we hold introductory weekends in Litchfield, Connecticut simultaneously with our trainings. And it gives people an opportunity to come up there and experience our community and experience our faculty, get a sense of the work. And, you know, Litchfield, Connecticut's not right next door for a lot of people, especially in our area. So we've decided to do these, we're calling them Core on the Road, but they're Core Energetics retreats. We have one in New York at the end of July. We have one in Philadelphia, August 17th to the 19th. That's the one you mentioned in the post. And then there's one in the DC area, September 21st through the 23rd. So I am going to be leading at least parts of both the Philadelphia retreat and the DC retreat. So I'm really excited to be able to bring this work that has served me so well and served so many clients and students that I've been able to work with, and be able to bring it into our area and have people that I know take part. So let me just take a pause and breathe. Yeah, so you had said, who is it for, right?
Yes, and I just want to add that this retreat will be at the Philadelphia Rebirthing Center.
Rebirthing Center. Yes, we're not giving birth.
Right.
The Philadelphia Rebirthing Center is this wonderful center where they do breath work and other retreats and stuff. And it's in a great house in East Oak Lane. And we actually have some limited space for people. I'm going to just close my email so we don't get that noise. Some space for people who are from not too close by can stay overnight. There's a limited amount of space for that. But for most of the people in our area, in the Philadelphia area, South Jersey, the surrounding suburbs, they could commute easily and really get a lot out of the workshop. So, yeah, go ahead. What you're going to say?
Yeah. So Kate, I just want to go back because you were talking about the mask and that way that we either always want to be happy, or as kids, we want to be good to win that love and approval from everyone around us. And then we're afraid to show that lower self that we have, that everybody has. So how is the mask tied into the ego?
Okay. So the way I think of the ego in two ways. There's kind of the psychological definition which is about the way that we do our reality testing. Like our ego helps us understand where we begin and end, and where you begin and end, and our relationships in the world. And, you know, the ego keeps us in reality and helps keep us safe. From the spiritual perspective, the ego is kind of like the little mind versus the big universal mind, right? So in our little ego, we're small and separate, and it does connect with that part of us that does do a certain amount of reality testing. But it is this place in us that thinks we're separate from everyone else, whereas the big mind, or the spirit part of us, knows that we're all connected and that the separation is an illusion. So ego and mask, this is a great question you're asking. So your mask is in some ways about protecting the little ego. Like, it's keeping things status quo so you can get the love you need. The mask is all about getting the love you need. So it's like nobody says, I think I'm going to be phony today. It's not that. It's just I develop protections that serve me as a child and in growing up. And then they sort of become like I identify with them and think this is who I am. But in reality, it's a layer on top of who I am that doesn't really allow me full expression of myself. Right. So you were saying, that we all want to be good and we want to please our parents. And that's that one kind of mask. We call it the love mask. It's like the friendly, people-pleasing, lovable type of mask. I'll be nice to you, so you'll be nice to me. So does that mean that person doesn't have the higher self quality of love? They do, but it's a little distorted because it's coming through this layer of protection, right? Then there's other kinds of masks, like a power mask, right? So everybody knows someone who's intimidating and, gets their way and that sort of thing. That's kind of the power mask. And then there's another mask, which I think of as kind of the mask that maybe someone would use when the other two masks didn't work. And that would be called the serenity mask. And that's the mask that says, you don't really bother me. Nothing bothers me. I'm fine, So it's kind of got an element of denial and withdrawal. So I say there's three kinds of masks. They're general. And then, we might all have a layer of mask that has its own specificity within those general categories. Yeah.
So I think one of the beauties of core energetics is, even though these mask and higher, lower self, all these things are a part of all of us, they're not who we really are. So it allows us the freedom to be who we really are as a result of working on those, trying on those different masks, or being at least conscious and aware of them. So what would you say that the attendees would expect to take away with them from the weekend, or perhaps experience?
Yeah, well, so it is group work, and so there's experiences that they'll do, in conjunction with other people, like doing some work in pairs, but also small group work. And then there's opportunities for people to do their own personal work with one of the facilitators, myself or someone else, and get the support of the group around them for that. And often one person's work will trigger something in someone else. It's like, oh my God, that happens to me too. And then, it kind of has this a snowball effect. It's like one person works and the next person's like, oh my God, that's something I need to work on too. And then we go on it from there. And the work is really about helping people see the parts of themselves that that aren't authentic. And it's like I said, nobody's trying to be phony. It's just, we have these patterns. They're not only patterns in our behavior, they're actually patterns in our body, right? So, and it might be a pattern in your voice. It might be a pattern in your face. It might be a pattern in the way you hold protect your heart, different ways that you carry your body in the world, the way you walk, all kinds of things that the body is telling us, and that your body, my body, is giving a message to the people around me to tell them how to relate to me. And I may not be aware of it, right? So I might just think, well, I'm a nice person. Why doesn't everybody like me? But maybe my body's conveying something that says, watch out, I'm going to scare you. I don't mean to be doing that, but my body is kind of in that habit place. So we work with we work with body and body posture and body movement, but we also work with what's the consciousness piece that goes along with it. So, as I said, different masks, which is a lot of the work, is like uncovering these masks. And it's not to say take it away. You don't get to be Miss Friendly, bubbly personality anymore. Of course you do, but it's helping you be that by choice, right? As opposed to some habit, some pattern that isn't about what you really feel or want. So sometimes the patterns actually keep us from knowing what we want. So sometimes it can be somebody who's been seeking for a long time, looking for a particular kind of direction and not getting where they want to get. This work can really make a difference in that. And some of it, so it's definitely got a personal development aspect for anyone. So anyone could come and check it out. But another group that I think, obviously therapists who want to learn how to incorporate body practices, somatic practices in their work, get to see how we work with the body can get so much out of a weekend like this. And then the third group that I would say is people who are in long-term recovery, you know, people who've maybe worked a program and they know how to stay sober, but they don't necessarily have the, they just don't have yet the healing that they're looking for. Like, so some of the things they struggled with that led them to use in the first place, they still struggle with, but now they struggle with it, just with certain tools to stay sober, but they don't necessarily have the struggle resolved. And this work can be really helpful for somebody who's got that long-term recovery. They know how to stay sober, and now they want to delve a little deeper to uncover and heal the parts of themselves that wanted to use in the first place. So I think of those kind of as three groups, just, therapist, people in long-term recovery, and then the average person who is just longing for deeper connections in their lives, more meaningful relationships. Sometimes we get people who have been dealing with a physical ailment that they know has an emotional component or gets exacerbated by emotional stress. And this work is particularly helpful to people like that. So I can tell you, for me, when I first started doing this work, I had so many physical ailments, and I was kind of I was a nurse. I had studied hypnotherapy. I studied healing touch, and I was seeking for answers. I had, I just was not happy in my life, and it was showing up as a lot of physical symptoms for me. And when I found this work, kind of magically, I looked at a drawing in Barbara Brennan's book of somebody working on a core energetics roller. And I thought, I need that. What is that? And so anyway, I started the work, and I would say within about 6 months, like a whole boatload of physical symptoms resolved. And, I'm not totally ache and pain free, but like for years I had back pain, and I don't have that anymore. And, for years I had headaches, and I don't have those anymore. And so a lot of those things resolved when I had the emotional releases. So when you have emotions that are pent up in your body has to do something with it. And often it'll get held in your musculature, and, you'll say, no, I'm fine. And then somebody will touch your shoulders and they're like rocks, and so some of the movements that we do in the work help to open that up and release not only the tension in the muscles, but the emotions that were holding it there. So it can be really helpful for people with somatic symptoms that they either are, like I said, either they have a physical condition that it gets exacerbated by the emotions, or there's just not really a great explanation for it. It's like they've had all the tests and they say there's nothing wrong with you, and yet they're in pain. So those are some people that could be really helped.
Well, Kate, we certainly know that if we're pent up, as you just said, if we're holding on to energy and emotions, that the body's going to react, and it's going to put us in pain to get our attention.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yes. That's so true. And the other thing is, if for some people, they come to this work after years of holding things, right? So one example I have is, I used to hold a lot of tension in my lower back. And then, even though a lot of that tension released, there was what I call the debris. It's like you hold tension in muscles over a period of time, you're going to affect the joint. Well, then the joint was affected, but even that has healed. So it's like some things will heal faster than others. I can see that people are commenting, Elsie, but I can't see what the comments are. So maybe you'll tell me.
Yeah. So we have, we have a lot of people on, Karen and Janice, Lisa, Natal, and Charlotte, Monica. Right. Monica saying this is super powerful work, and I highly recommend it. Janice is saying hello to us, and
hello.
And Caitlin is here with us, and she's a little new to all of this, but I think she's also equally interested. And
Great.
one thing I want to say to anybody considering working this weekend or that weekend in August is I've worked with Kate personally, and what I've been so aware of at any of these retreats or events that we've gone to is a tremendous support, and the support and energy that everybody holds for an individual who's working.
Mhm.
There's no judgment. And as you pointed out earlier, Kate, if one person has the courage to work, it almost always hits on something we have in ourselves or that we're working with and helps us resolve something as well.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to be there and witness it. Witness someone else's work and get the benefit of the effect of it, right?
Right.
I know that's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you. And can I just say something about your work a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, good.
Sure.
So I want to say, you are such an amazing healer, and you have been in this area for I didn't say how many years, but a
Right.
good number of years, right? Like when I moved to Marlton, I heard about Elsie Kerns. Who's this Elsie Kerns? She's everywhere. She was prolific, and I know you've taught Reiki and energy medicine and all these things, but one of the things that I've witnessed in your work is how deeply present you've become. Like you've always been sort of,
Up here.
one foot in the other world kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Where you have that spiritual connection, which is comes from kind of an early wounding, that you have one foot on the planet and one foot in the spiritual realm. And that's all great, but it's so important to be able to ground that connection so that you can do your work in the world. And I feel like that is what I've witnessed with the work that you've done. You've just become more and more present. And here you are, like affecting and impacting more and more people because of your presence. Would you agree?
Yeah, thanks, Kate.
Yeah,
And
so much.
another reason is because the core work that you teach and facilitate really does emphasize grounding and presence.
Yes,
And
yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, so sometimes people come in and they're like, well, I want to work on this big, some big thing that happened to them when they were a child or even as an adult. And we often start with grounding.
Correct.
because you need that base of support. Like literally, you need your connection to the planet and your connection to yourself and your connection to other people in order to be able to do that work and feel supported. So it is a big part of our work is grounding. And it's sort of like this foundation. Like as you get grounded, you start to feel more. And then you might have a spontaneous movement that wants to come with that, an impulse that you follow. And then you get grounded again. And it's kind of like this wonderful, benevolent cycle, We hear people talk about malicious cycles or that sort of thing. This is a benevolent cycle that we set ourselves on. And I think that's really powerful too, to give people tools to come back to themselves and get grounded.
Another thing that I think that core helps everyone with is building a sense of resilience, of inner resilience. In such a chaotic world today that we really need to build that inner resilience. So I think core has a tremendous capacity as that person finds their truer or authentic self to create that internal resilience.
Yeah, it's so important. And as you said, in this world that we are living in with so much happening, I think that us getting grounded and having moments of stillness and being able to tolerate moments of stillness, right? Like,
yes,
we can talk about meditation, but if you can't tolerate the stillness and the quiet, it's really hard to get your own spiritual connection and get your own spiritual guidance that helps you know what you need to do next in response to what's happening in the world and in your world, you know. So, you know, I hear in law of attraction all the time, they talk about the emotional guidance system, right?
Yes.
That how you feel is telling you what your thoughts are. And if you're not feeling good, then you're not thinking the right things. But I know people who don't really have full access to that emotional guidance because they're often finding ways to escape it, right? Or have habituated ways of, you know, I feel fine. I feel fine. You know, I can't stop moving, but I feel fine. So, you know, it's like you need to be able to have access to all of your emotions. This is something that, you know, I think, well, I'll say a couple things about how our work sort of sets us apart from even other body-oriented models, where the focus is on the individual and the individual's connection with their body, that's definitely a basis where we start as well. But with core energetics, so much of the work is relational. What's happening in the relationship? What's happening in the relationship with me, with an individual client when I'm working with them? What's happening with you in a group or at a workshop in relationship to the other participants, in relationship to the leaders? Because every grouping sort of becomes what we call like a microcosm for your real life, you know. So things that affect you in a group, they have a direct correlation to something that's affecting you in your personal life. And so those are really those group opportunities give you so much insight into what's happening in your personal life. And, you know, another thing that I like to talk about with this work, and I recently just had a client say to me, well, I'm not sure that I'm applying the work. Like, I do this work with you, but I'm not sure I'm applying it. And my experience is, if you show up and you surrender to what's happening on the emotional level, the change kind of happens organically. And you actually don't have to apply it. It applies itself. It's like all of a sudden you'll notice that you're reacting differently to your spouse, or something that drove you crazy that your kids did. Suddenly you're just not that rattled by it anymore. Or, you know, maybe you had a little bit of road rage, and all of a sudden now you're feeling the part of you that says, no, you go. No, you go, you know. So the change starts to happen to you. It seems like it's happening to you, but it's happening to you because you've shown up for the work, because you've participated with your energy, with your emotional self, and because you were willing to have some consciousness, you know, about it. And so I think that's one of two things that I love about this work, are that it is relational, and it is all about developing your relational intelligence, and two, that it's organic, and that if you just show up, the work changes you kind of from the inside out. You don't have to say, well, today I'm going to be nice, or today I'm not going to lose my temper, or today. You just don't have to do that, because that's all. There's nothing wrong with having those goals, right? And those intentions. But with the way this work happens, it just occurs. Suddenly you shift. And to me, that's the most beautiful part about it.
Well, that's the whole purpose, as you said earlier, that Dr. John Parakas really wanted an evolutionary process that would help us evolve. And I did meet him many years ago, and he really was off the back end of bioenergetics and many of the, energetic therapies that were coming into being. But he really wanted that core energetics to have that spiritual component, to be able to connect to that higher self as well as your lower self, and have all of the components together. So it was a very comprehensive program that he put together.
Yeah. And, you know, there are a lot of, I'm going to say, spiritual modalities out there that talk about transcending the lower energies.
Right.
And the key with core, with John's work and with what we do, is you can't transcend something that you haven't strengthened, that you haven't experienced. Like, you have to embrace the energy of that. That's not about acting it out. It's about embracing the energy, like the part of you that really does want to stay separate. That's not so easy to own. We all think we all want to be in connection, but in reality, we all have ways that we keep a distance, So being able to really own that is it often, when you get to the place where you can really own it, there's usually a little bit of pain right underneath that. And when you're willing to feel that pain, that energy transforms. And it's so much better to do it with support. It's like you can't do it without the support. So
yeah, we need that together. So, hey, give us all the information again. The Core Energetics Retreat.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple websites. The first one is the Institute of Core Energetics website, and that is coreenergetics.org. Okay. And that's where you can get information about all of our events and, and our faculty and our programs, and just get a sense of the work there. And then we have another website, coreenergeticsretreats.com. coreenergeticsretreats.com.
Yeah, I've got that up there.
Yeah, and then there's one that's, /Philly. But if you go to coreenergeticsretreats.com, you'll see the Philadelphia link, and you can just click over to that. And everything you need to know about the workshop is there, and how to register and all of that. And, it's a nice group that's already forming. I didn't mention the price of the workshop. The full price is $497, but it's currently $397 until July 17th. So that's the early bird, $397, and you can bring a friend for free. Oh. So, we want people to register and bring like-minded friends who they would love to share the experience with, but also, if you're a therapist, bring one of your colleagues. If you're in recovery, bring one of your recovery peers, bring people that want to deepen their connection to themselves, to life, to each other. That's what we'd like to have happen. And it is August 17th to the 19th at the Philadelphia Rebirthing Center. And as I said, if you're in the New York area, there's one in New York City, July 27th through the 29th. And there's also one in the DC area. It's Arlington, Shirlington, September 21st through the 23rd. And, at the one in New York, our academic director, Lisa Lucino, will be there, along with some other of our seasoned faculty. And then I will be at the Philadelphia retreat and the DC retreat, along with other seasoned faculty in those places. So go get registered and bring a friend. We would love to have you and love to meet you.
And Kate, give us your phone number in case anybody wants to call and talk to you if they have reservations or they're not sure about this, if it's right for them. Let's have your phone number up there.
Yeah, my phone number is 856-261-4900.
And I'll also post that.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Hi, Denise. I'm glad you joined. Wow, we have a great group. All right. Well, Kate, this has been so fun to talk about this, and especially since I've experienced this with you and the Holistic Business Mastery Group. And I will get all this information up and get you this link, and so you can put it up on your site as well.
Thank you so much, Elsie.
It was really great, everyone. Heidi.
Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Yep. And Denise and everybody down there, just checking all those comments. And Caitlin, I'm so glad you joined as well. Charlotte, my good friend Charlotte and Lisa. So good night, everyone. This is Elsie Kerns, your Chaos to Clarity coach. And I'm with Kate Holt, who is the executive director of the Core Energetics Institute, located in New York. But we're going to have a Philadelphia retreat so you can get an experience of this work for yourself, and you can bring a friend for free.
Thanks, Elsie.
You're welcome, Kate.
I look
Okay,
forward to seeing
everybody.
you